Hello, this is Niilo, and today we'll talk about my musical history and the path that brought me here. I'm going to show you some stuff from my computer. I have files going back to 1995, so there's lots of stuff there. I spent the day browsing through it all and being amazed about the amount of stuff I have here. As I mentioned, my first instrument was the piano. And actually my first band instrument was keyboards as well. I had this Yamaha DX7, very classic 80s synthesizer, and a drum machine. So me and my friend formed a band with the drum machine providing beats. I played bass lines on the synthesizer and then we would rap over it. Because we figured, well, rap is the easiest genre, so let's start from there and then work our way up. There are recordings on C-cassette. I will not play those at this point. But then we graduated into death metal and I moved on to real drums instead of the drum machine, which would make a comeback at one point. And of that I have a record, though it's not on the computer because 90s. So and the band was called Morg. Yes. Did I mention I grew up in northern Finland in a municipality of 5,000 people or so. I was the first and only guy with long hair in that region. So yeah, it was interesting. But anyway, we played some gigs with Morg, traveled to as far as Rovaniemi to play. But eventually the lineup was reduced back to just the two of us, with me playing bass, which became my main instrument for the next 10-15 years, and the drum machine making a comeback and providing us the beats. In principle, I still have a band up with this guy, who's my oldest friend. We haven't had a band practice in 8 years or so, but we are working on our 25th anniversary album. I've been working on it for 10-12 years now. Someday, maybe on retirement, we have time to finish it. So back then, when I was still in school and living with my parents, I made music with computer. Unfortunately, most of the programs I used then don't run on modern computers and the file formats are obscure and I couldn't easily open them, so the early stuff is still out. But luckily one format survived, the tracker format used by programs such as Scream Tracker and Fast Tracker and Impulse Tracker that I used back then. That has survived and people have made Windows compatible players for that. And I just went through my files and have something like 60 released songs, which I uploaded into some bulletin board system back then, and maybe 2 people ever downloaded and listened to them, but released nonetheless. And then something over 200 unfinished songs. Interesting stuff. I'll play you some examples of what a teenager could do with a computer back in the late 90s. So here's one. And then I moved out to study into Tampere, and the university had quite a lively band scene. There was a rehearsal room that something like 30 bands used. The first band that we put together on my first year was called Routasaha, which translates into frost saw. So it was kind of intellectual rock, Finnish rock music. We made a couple of demos. I recorded this EP. First we went into studio to record some of these songs, but we weren't that happy with the result and decided let's do it all ourselves, which sounds kind of familiar. And another 3-song EP, which I also recorded. Routasaha was quite an interesting project. I found a song list. We had over 60 songs that we had rehearsed. We played maybe less than 10 gigs over the 5 years that the band was up. I recorded those couple of EPs and lots of demos. And then what happened to that band? Well, we somehow we weren't able to finish these songs. We didn't have that many gigs. We just practiced weekly and rearranged the songs and then rearranged them. And I guess the final thing that tipped it was that because there were 30 bands rehearsing in the same rehearsal room, and it was quite hard to get a slot on the weekday that you would have preferred, and then there was a problem of finding a slot that would have fit all the band members, and then we said, never mind about that. But yeah, that's something I hope I'll be able to return to someday, maybe mix some of the songs properly. Then in addition to that, we played in some cover song bands in student parties and so on, much like Mikko described. One of the cover bands called Superstar ended up writing some original material, which I also recorded, so we did a couple of EPs again. This Dream with 3 songs or so. Way Out of Line. Also 4 songs. It was a 4-piece band for most of the time. In the end we got a keyboard player, which happened to be the very same Petri that then I asked over to Green Roswell when we started that band. Well, after finishing university, all my active bands seemed to have gone into sleep, so I was looking for a new band to play bass in. So I looked up some wanted ads and found this band Destination X that was looking for a bass player. I went and auditioned and got the job. I played on this one EP that Tommy already mentioned.
Is there a place where I can hide myself? Can't you see my pictures that die? That bleeding cloud from the clear white winds. The sun is red.
yeah, so it was fun for the couple of years it lasted. And so the story goes that one night when I was with Tommy at the rehearsal room building some props for a gig, he put some Blackmore's Night on as a background music, and then we started talking about other stuff and ended up founding first the Medieval project, which then became Green Rose Fair. And starting Green Rose Fair was kind of remarkable event in my musical life because it opened this whole new world of traditional or acoustic kind of music to me. I never played that sort of thing, and I wondered what's the bassist supposed to play in that kind of music. So I saw there's an Irish traditional music course starting up in Tampere, so I'll enroll there and find out what's bass supposed to play in that sort of music, and I found it's not. Irish traditional music usually doesn't have bass. So what I was to do, well, I bought myself a mandolin and learned to play that, and turned out the tenor banjo uses the same fingering, so it was easy one to pick up, as well as the Irish bouzouki. And I went to that course for a couple of years. Then they asked me if I wanted to start teaching the elementary course for Irish music. And I was, no, why not? I've taken this course myself, so I know the stuff. And then I ended up teaching Irish music for 4 or 5 semesters or something like that, which I guess was useful because I needed to learn the tunes myself properly. And I ended up recording 2 solo albums of Irish tunes, just collecting the example playthroughs that I've done for the course and put them on Spotify. Yeah, then of course I graduated from bass to bouzouki on Green Rose Fair as well. Just nice. Also, because of Green Rose Fair and this Irish music business, I joined a band, Jeepit, which played Irish folk music and Scandinavian folk music and stuff like that. Mostly instrumental stuff. There was a violin, accordion, guitarists, and myself playing bass. But then we had these Irish songs in the repertoire, and they would have benefited from someone actually singing the songs. And since there were no other volunteers, I said, okay, I'll give it a crack. You tell me if it's awful and I'll stop. But no one ever said that, so I became the lead singer, well, for the couple of songs that we did. We actually also recorded a EP. This I didn't record, we went to a studio. But on this is the first album where I'm singing lead vocals on one song. Oh, good evening, all me jolly lads. I'm glad to find the well with the gather all around me. Then the story I tell. Finally, I found a style of music where my voice, or lack of it, somehow fits. And now on Green Rose Fair, I ended up singing quite a lot of backing vocals as well, which I wouldn't have dreamt of 10 years ago. So, all in all, it's been interesting so far. Let's see what happens next. So I guess this is enough for now. See you next time. Bye.